Hello and welcome to all project managers, not PMPs. My name is Sergey Brovkin. I am a certified recovering project manager, and this is my last lesson in the advanced project management course. It appears that our project managers, not PMPs, learning project has come to an end. And what happens to the project when everything is said and done? You do lessons learned. So today we will talk about lessons learned. Of course, I expect the busiest of you to drop out of this class right after these words. Right. But to those who stay, congratulations. Your choice is the right choice. Making lessons learned part of your business process will give you an incredible boost as project manager, as leader of any kind. And if you are leading an organization or a project, your organization will become a learning organization, which in fact is an agile organization. Yes, quite often lessons learned is a hard sell, because the majority of leaders, busy leaders, they're action figures who are very operational. They think about today, but rarely are planning seriously for a success tomorrow. And that is what lessons learned is about. Lessons learned is a strategic investment in the future of your business and in its most valuable asset, your team, your people. And as is always the case with investments, as you probably know, the most successful 10% own 90% of investments. That's the stats from the stock market, but from my experience, it's the same ratio in lessons learned. So why managers are generally skeptical about lessons learned? Well, in addition to the fact that they're action figures, they never had lessons learned. Because they may call it lessons learned, but the lessons will become learned only on condition that you really apply them. Traditionally, if some organization wants to be or look smart, they will be having a formal lessons learned session in the end of the project. And this is the least thing you should do, because the methodology is not complicated. You collect and analyze your performance using the three following questions. What we were expected to deliver, what have we actually delivered, and what should we do better next time. And this should do better next time becomes an action item, and an action item is an action item when it has a date and a responsible person, and of course when it is followed up. So if you do not have this process in place, lessons learned will never give any results, because simply they are not lessons learned. Quite a few companies realize that there is something good about lessons learned, and they declare lessons learned session with mandatory attendance in the end of the project, and maybe even they apply the three questions and they follow up on them, and the result is not meaningful. Of course, because a one-off event does not bring a sustainable culture change. It's like taking a decision to buy a gym membership and maybe even attending once. Not a big change to your performance. My advice would be, make lessons learned a standing item on your regular team meeting agenda. Turn each lesson learned into an action item whenever you see that it will help move ahead your team. And follow up on this lesson learned as you would follow up on any other action item on the action items list in your meeting documentation. Now that you know how to make the project lessons learned actually learned, I will share with you 5 key lessons that I learned over the many years of managing projects. Let's start from the very beginning. Let's say you are assigned a project. Maybe it's your first project, maybe you already have sufficient experience, but by all means you don't want this project to be your last one. That means that you want to deliver this project successfully. So here is lesson number 1 for you. Start with a project charter. Project chart is a one-page document that gives the initial concise description of what needs to be done. But most importantly, it tells the world that your project exists and that you are a legitimate representative of the project needs and goals. It is like having a birth certificate for your child. It has the name, key specs like length and cost, weight, and it has the parents' names in there, and that will be the project manager and the project sponsor. Do not try turning project charter into a project novel and make it longer than one page. But still, this one page must include the project description in 1 or 2 sentences, but written in such a way that a 6-year-old child will understand what you are talking about and what are you planning to deliver. Right, this may be a challenge for some project managers to come up with a description like that, but clarity, starting with a project charter, is what project managers are actually paid for, and ultimately that's what makes your project a success. In your project charter, you will make the first step at your project constraints, known as the project management triangle. So here comes lesson number 2. The iron triangle is a must-have in project management, but it must be preceded by a purpose of the project, which is supposed to be very clear. You know what a project triangle is. In your project charter, you should have it already described, and you may have to revisit it and change the constraints, by the way, throughout the project, because change happens. However, the one big thing that should not change throughout the life cycle of the project, and that is the project purpose. The purpose is, so to say, is something that is above the project triangle, above the constraints, milestones and goals and everything else. The purpose is the why of the project. Depending on the purpose, obviously, the relative importance of your project constraints or the sides of the triangle will change. But when you understand the purpose, and when the purpose is clear to the team and the team understands the purpose as well as you do, it doesn't take much time to instantly understand what constraints are important and what are less important. Obviously, if you want to be the first space billionaire, the money is not an issue, but the time is. Of course, you need to make sure that the purpose is clear to your team and shared by your team. And that takes us to the next lesson, which is lesson number 3. Establish and maintain team communications. When you have project charter signed by the sponsor, you can call the kickoff meeting, and that's the first event in the communication system of your project. You bring the team together, but project meetings is only one of the channels where the information is shared. And there are some other channels, and those channels you describe in one-pager communication plan, like a matrix which says when and what information is shared and with whom. The table makes it clear when the information is scheduled to be distributed and which meetings have to be attended and which meetings should not be attended by a certain member of this team or the extended team. Communication plan is a project document that is very easy to create, but its value throughout the project is extremely high. It saves a lot of frustration. That's why you may say that its return on investment is very significant. Lesson number 4 that I want to share with you is about the Raci Chart. Probably you know what Raci Chart is. But altogether it's an optional document that as project manager you may decide to have or not to have as part of your project documentation. I decided to remind you about the Raci Chart because the concept is sort of similar to that of communication matrix, a communication plan, and it is worth digesting and kind of internalizing and applying. And because whenever the organization wants to be agile, Raci becomes more important than the org chart. The idea is simple, probably as you remember. It's a matrix, again a one-pager, which shows who is doing what, subdividing the team members' responsibility into 4 categories: responsible, accountable, consulted and informed. The value of the Raci chart is in the clarity and agreement achieved between the team members before things actually start happening. To make sure that the responsible person knows what and when needs to be done, who is going to be doing what, and there are no areas or tasks where there is no responsible and therefore they will fall through cracks later on in the project. When defining your Raci chart, pay special attention to the project success criteria and to the handover points. Those items, especially as being far in the future, are often skipped or perhaps ignored in the beginning of the project and later considered obvious, but they are not. To avoid frustration and finger pointing at a later date, ask this simple question. How do we know that the project has been successfully completed? If you ask this question to Google, you'll see what you get. Close to 2 billion hits. And it's very difficult to find the right answer there, because actually what you need to know is who signs the acceptance and when. Get that very clear. Have it approved by the sponsor and always share it with your team. So far we were talking about documents that help project manager drive, manage and control the project progress. And at the end the project manager may proudly say that he delivered the project successfully. Technically this is one way of running a project, and let's face it, the vast majority of projects and businesses in general are managed this way. But this is very last century. Because it's not the project manager who delivers, but the project team. And the more is delivered by project manager himself, the more stressful and less efficient the project becomes, and more it is prone to failure. To win in the project game, the project manager must pay special attention to the team composition. Indeed, the more your team aligned, the better is your chance to succeed. Your ultimate goal is to create a community of people driven by the same shared purpose, and not just to control and manage a group of people that happen to be working together. That team alignment I achieve with my clients by using my Q7 Collective Culture Compass tool. The beauty of Q7 is that it is a 1-minute questionnaire that helps determine to what extent the team members are aligned and share values, because shared values is what makes a group of people a community. Not every project manager has the luxury to handpick his team, that's understood. But still, this assessment opens many eyes, and by all means it opens the door to better team communication and alignment. Probably there are other tools that you could apply as the leader, but no tool will actually work and help you build the winning team until you as the leader realize that your actual role is to establish trust inside your business community and make sure that the entire community is aligned towards the same purpose, has clear goals, and all you have to do after that is check in regularly to make sure that everybody has everything they need to continue their progress. That was the most important lesson I've learned in my entire project management career. Put together a good, well-aligned team. Make sure that the purpose and the goals are clear to the entire team, and get out of their way. Do not screw them up, and they will deliver with flying colors, and you will look like a hero. And that was the last lesson in our advanced project management course. Thank you for your interest, and best of luck in your project management career. Do not forget to share these lessons with other project managers, not PMPs, and subscribe to be the first to know when I come up with something new, because everything is changing.
This is part of Project Managers Not PMPs course. To stay in the know, subscribe to Collective.